Hello and welcome to my careful ramble. I want to talk about this idea of teaching communication, two senses of the term teaching communication. It could mean more things, it probably sometimes does, but I want to focus on two meanings of the term teaching communication, what that can mean, and why I have a preference for one of them. So, teaching communication is often done by language teachers as there's some sort of pre-written dialogue. It might be from a textbook, it might be something the teacher wrote themselves, it might be from something real, it could be from an actual recording of people ordering drinks in a coffee shop, or people ordering food at a restaurant, or someone going to the bank, or people in an office conversing with each other. um, could be from anywhere. um, but what the teacher is doing is taking this one text, this one piece of text, and turning that into the target of learning. So you're going to learn this one text. And it's often pitched, the teacher will often pitch it as um, this is the kind of thing you would see in this context. This is the kind of dialogue and word choice and vocabulary and discourse moves, who asks a question when and that kind of thing. Um, and so that's the first sense of the meaning of teaching communication is, showing one example, maybe two in a unit, typically not more than that, and really focusing on memorizing the parts and maybe asking students to do things like identify the vocabulary and identify the discourse moves. What was the sequence of like who asked the question about what, and then who gave a response about what, and so that is the first. So the second sense is simply demonstrating usage through usage, and not demonstrating usage through a kind of found and encased example. Like here's a printout of a text. Maybe it's digital, but here's this one recording, or here's this one text we're going to focus on. But instead, it's just the teacher and students actually communicating with each other. That they have something spontaneous in the moment that they actually want to talk about. Spontaneity is just in the nature of conversation. That conversation is necessarily contingent on what the previous person said, and that what follows is limited um, in terms of what would be one of many possible responses to that. In an office, so here let's contrast the two senses now. So in your text, maybe I'm imagining this, but here's a text I'm imagining. Um, Someone says, "Hey, did you turn in that paperwork?" And the other person says, "Oh, I got it in on Monday." Okay, so in this example, the answer is given. I got it in on Monday. There's only one response because the text, by its very nature, only has one response. It's whatever they said in that string of dialogue, and it's fixed. It's done. By contrast, in my second sense of the term teaching communication, where it's done through real communication, you might role play. I like when it's imaginative, so there's some space for actual student agency. Um, to me, there's not enough agency when it's like, "Hey, did you turn in that paperwork?" "Yes, I turned it in on," and then fill in the blank with either Monday/Tuesday/Wednesday/Thursday. Um, and that also typically wouldn't lead to any consequences that the students could do anything with. Um, Whereas if you get students used to an imaginative type of thing, then there's some purpose for it. It's to get a laugh, which is better than no purpose. But also getting that laugh then has consequences for what we talk about next. So it's not laugh and then we're done. It's at laugh and then, oh no, now we have to build something on this strange situation. So, hey, did you turn this? So the teacher could role play with students and say like, "Hey, did you turn this in? Did you turn in that paperwork?" And then a student could say, um, "Yeah, I turned it in." Like, "Oh, when did you turn it in?" 10 years ago. "Oh, wow. Okay. Did you turn it in this week?" And the teacher has a lot more of the linguistic resources to handle a lot more of the topic development. Um, the teacher gets to have typically a better dual focus on form and meaning, because the teacher isn't bogged down by constrained linguistic resources. Like the teacher knows a lot more of the normal phrasing and the vocabulary and all these things. So they get to play with the topic a bit more too, because the topic is being developed through the language. The teacher has a lot more of that language knowledge to use. And so then the teacher could say, oh boy, well, we need it this week. And then the student could still be playful and say something like, oh, no, I can't do it this week. So then maybe the teacher says, oh, we need to find someone else who can do your job, pull up another student. You can do a lot of sort of, it might be indistinguishable from improv comedy, to just make it up. But what's happening there is that students have to actually do the work of keeping track of what has been said so far to make decisions about what they might say next. And a lot of surprises can come from the teacher as well, of what possibilities, what could be said next. Opportunities for misunderstanding can come up where the teacher says, my door is open, and the student says, okay. And the teacher goes, no, in the culture that would imply that you're supposed to come into my office. That was a request for you to come in. That was the pragmatic move in that moment. I'm telling you to come in to come see me. Or you can come find me anytime. Like that's the implication. But there are just so many opportunities for students to misunderstand. Like, oh, you didn't say it with a question grammar. And so I didn't know you were asking a question. And the teacher can say, oh, in an office, it's normal to talk like this. Or in a restaurant, when you're ordering, it's normal to just say this or that. A lot of things about like over-assuming politeness. Like students will say, oh, how do I ask, how was your day? And the teacher can say, oh, in a restaurant, you wouldn't ask the waiter or waitress, how was your day? It would be taken as a little bit weird in this particular culture, normally speaking. If you want to go and try that, see if you get a fun response. Maybe they'll see you as a foreigner. Go for it. You probably get some fun responses. But just letting you know that normally people don't ask that kind of question in this kind of context. So that's what's nice about communicating and then running into these little errors or these little tricky understanding moments where the teacher then gets to explicitly explain something about normal behavior dependent on context and things like that. So I prefer the second kind because there's so much opportunity for error and multiple kinds of responses and training in keeping track of the ongoing talk, because you need to in order to be able to make predictions about what might be said next, and then compare your predictions about what might be said next with what actually is said next, and then modify your assumptions about what people say moment to moment. And there just aren't opportunities like that in a fixed dialogue. It's a little like saying, I'm going to show you this one word over and over, and then that'll be your input for that word, when we're not demonstrating that word in enough different contexts to give you opportunities to build up a sense of where and when that word is used. And so similarly, it's that flexibility, those changes in context, and opportunities to track, guess, get it wrong, track, guess, confirm that your guess was right, and feel that little sense of, oh, I'm getting it. There's just none of that comes up when it's fixed. So that's why I prefer teaching communication through communication as opposed to teaching communication through a very limited set of examples of communication that the students are not themselves participating in actually building. So, yep, that's some thought. Those are some thoughts of mine. Thanks for listening.